into the face of growth, we may have to revisit painful experiences. Okay, this is the difference. Here we go. Oh my gosh. When we go into growth, we may need to revisit a painful experience, but we do not need to relive the pain itself in order to grow and learn from it. Okay, let me repeat that because it's so important. Whenever we go into the growth journey, or I should say, sometimes this is required, right? Sometimes it is required of us when we are growing to revisit a painful experience. This does not mean that you have to relive the pain itself. Okay. And this is the difference between pain and discomfort. Just because you have to revisit an experience that was painful at the time does not mean that you have to relive that pain now.
Welcome to Ignite the Spark Within, a podcast designed to do just that, ignite your spark within you. I'm your host, Sarah Malone, owner of Spark Fitness and Lifestyle Coaching and voted Yahoo Finance's top 10 female coaches to follow in 2021. I believe everyone has a fire inside them, a powerful purpose, a story waiting to be told, and everyone can uncover and unleash this power. Every day you have the choice to either let your experiences shape you or take control and use your experiences to shape the world around you. You were made to experience happiness, freedom, joy, purpose, love, passion, and abundance. Disrupt the status quo, think for yourself, and join forces with those around you doing the same. Join me for thought-provoking conversations along with the strategies needed in order to help you ignite your spark within.
Welcome back to the show, everyone. I'm so excited to be here for this episode today. The topic is one that I am so passionate about. Obviously, I wouldn't be talking about it if I weren't. But before we dive into the topic, which is all about growth and the discomfort and whiplash moments of growth, and if you've been on the growth journey yourself, you know exactly what I'm talking about without me even having to describe it. I'd first like to begin by just simply thanking you for your support for the show, for your continued listening, and for those of you that choose to share, donate, and rate the show, which I will ask for you all, if you haven't already, to please do that now. It is such a high value, and it's something that takes absolutely none of your monetary value whatsoever. It takes a couple of minutes, just a simple rating on Spotify or Apple. This really just helps us to bring awareness to the show. It helps me to know that you guys are liking what we are putting out, both from my guests and from myself on these solo casts. And it really just reiterates what we are doing here with Ignite the Spark, igniting the spark within. So please rate, please share. And as always, tag me if you do share it on Instagram or Facebook. I also wanted to take a moment to talk about the online courses that I've talked about for the past few weeks. They are available now in a bundle and also individually. These growth courses were created over the past 10 years of my own training and personal development. And it was something that I put together actually during COVID for free, offering masterminds that were helping people kind of transition through sticky moments in order to create clarity and ultimately reignite that spark within themselves to find passion, purpose, and happiness in life again. So what I've done is I've chunked it out into mind, body, spirit courses. So there's one specifically for body. And this is more about not me telling you what to do or how to have a fit body, but empowering you with the tools to decide what it is you want for your own life and what would best suit your lifestyle as far as health and fitness goes, because not everyone is created equal and not everyone can just go to the gym 5 days a week and be happy with doing that. So it's important to get clear on that and then have a roadmap to be able to do that. Then there's the mind course, which helps you produce a bulletproof mindset. Not only that, but inevitably life will happen. And this is equipping you with the tools to be able to navigate and self-regulate your own mind and emotions through the inevitable ups and downs, ebbs and flows of life. That mind course will equip you with your own goals that are autonomous to you, and you'll eventually emerge out the other end of that with a very clear vision board and life map for yourself, one in which would make you happy, and which is the only definition of success. And then the spirit course, of course, the part that most growth courses miss is your spiritual wholeness and wellness. And this is the part that I'm most passionate about, because I do believe that as long as we are in tune with and in touch with our spiritual selves, then all else flows from here. And so the spirit course is really designed to do just that, get you back in tune with and in touch with your true identity, the identity that you were created to be, and really ultimately step into that with power, passion, and confidence. This leads to a life of greater fulfillment and ultimately greater peace, which is something we all want. You can choose to do these courses individually, or you can bundle them. Just check out the website, sparkflc.com. And of course, on the website, you'll also notice our next upcoming retreat is October 19th through 23rd. Our last retreat in July was absolutely out of this world magical. In fact, so magical, the participants from this last retreat will also be volunteering at the next upcoming retreats, and have also suggested that a 2.0 reignition retreat be created. So this is in the works also, and will be launched February of 2024. So if you do plan on going to the October Healing and Growth Retreat, the Reignite and the Red Rocks Retreat, you can look out for and look forward to. If you've been so ignited, which I have no doubt that you will be, then you can come back on February for continued growth and a next level. It's called Reignition, Sparks Will Fly. So now that we've got all that out of the way, thank you so much for bearing with me. Again, this is an unsponsored show. I'd like to keep it that way, because that saves you time and me time in having to, pitch you products and services of someone else's benefit. And ultimately, your support of the show, sharing it, and hopefully donating to it will be the support, all the support that this show needs. So let's dive in. So this topic came onto my heart actually before the retreat, and then post-retreat. It's important for people who host retreats or seminars or virtual events to be conscientious and in tune with their participants after the experience, because what I've noticed is there is an integration period that can be quite challenging for some if you're not prepared for it. And how some have described it is either a whiplash or a kind of like an aftershock of an earthquake, that you experience so much change. And then the experience of going, quote unquote, back to reality poses as a huge challenge, because it's like this huge peak moment. And then you kind of get dropped back into your previous life, the life that you had been complacent in or had accepted before you went into your change. Now, while I do want to address that happening, that conundrum, I also want to first dive into how the growth journey transpires and how to navigate this, right? Because I think it can be hard if we don't have a compass. And what happens is our preconditioned perceptions of pain or discomfort produce a stalling point or a block in our pursuit of growth. Let me explain what I mean by that. We have been conditioned by the world to get out of pain or discomfort as quickly as possible. And thus we have an altered and inaccurate perception of pain and discomfort. So much so that we don't even know the difference between pain and discomfort, because let me tell you, there is a very big difference, and it matters because pain is put there to move us away from something. Discomfort is put there as almost an entry point into a higher level, a next level. And it's very important to be able to distinguish the difference so that we can use pain and discomfort as a guide on this growth journey. I also, in this episode, am going to dive into, so if we're going to take this from the inside to the outside, which is what we'll do, we're going to go on a journey of the growth journey internally, and then how the growth journey looks externally. Okay. So the internal portion is recognizing the difference between pain and discomfort, and then how to use both of those as a guide or a compass. And the external portion is in terms of relationships, using pain as a guide in knowing when people have hurt you, or I should rephrase that, knowing the difference between being hurt by someone and them harming you. Okay. Being hurt by them or being harmed by them, because there's, again, a very big difference here. And you would be surprised at how much ownership you can take over the hurt portion. Okay. We can't control if somebody harms us, like does us harm, and we become a true victim of harm. But we do have control and say over how we are, quote unquote, hurt by others. So let's dive in. So we have committed to pursuing self-growth, whatever that means for you, right? I mean, this is a very elusive term, which in my opinion, we're all on a growth journey of some sort. Change is inevitable, growth is optional, but we all go through growth spurts and growth periods in our life. Whether we choose to continue on a consistent path of growth is completely and entirely up to us. And here is how this happens, okay? Whenever we begin to face growth of any kind, the mere onset of our pursuit of growth is signifying discomfort of some kind. In any pursuit of growth, any living being, a pursuit of growth requires some level of discomfort and stretching. Why? This stretching requires us to do something outside of our norm, which is comfortable for us, which is going to put us into a state of discomfort. Now, the problem comes when we cannot associate or discern the difference between pain and discomfort. See, pain is put here to guide us away from or to certain things, right? In the wild, if something hurts, we go away from it. And this is going to translate a lot into relationships the further we go into this episode. So hang tight here. So while we pursue this state of growth, it's going to require some level of discomfort. When we interpret discomfort as pain, we may have the temptation to shy away from it. And this causes us to go from one of two directions, right? In the face of, in the onset, in the experience of, and as soon as we face this discomfort that we perceive to be pain, we have two options. We can turn the other way and retreat, saying that it's too hard, or that maybe it's we are going in the wrong direction, and we misinterpret the signs, right? We misinterpret the signs to say, I must not be doing this right because it shouldn't be this way. It shouldn't be hard this way. It shouldn't be hurting this way. When really what we want to get to is a place of recognizing what pain is and what discomfort is. And so as examples of this concept, right? Like pain would be going into relationship. Okay, here we go. Pain would be going into a relationship consistently over and over and over again with this person who continues to harm you in a way that degrades your integrity, your value, your self-love, your space of peace, and thinking that this is part of the growth journey in any way. In fact, in the growth journey, it's actually very hard to feel pain unless you're in direct contact with someone who is harming you, or you are harming you in some way. This could be emotional harm, it could be physical harm, it could be mental, it could be literal, substance abuse would be causing you pain. Okay. Discomfort is different. See, when we go into the face of growth, we may have to revisit painful experiences. Okay. This is the difference. Here we go. Oh my gosh. When we go into growth, we may need to revisit a painful experience, but we do not need to relive the pain itself in order to grow and learn from it. Okay, let me repeat that because it's so important. Whenever we go into the growth journey, or I should say, Sometimes this is required, right? Sometimes it is required of us when we are growing to revisit a painful experience. This does not mean that you have to relive the pain itself. Okay. And this is the difference between pain and discomfort. Just because you have to revisit an experience that was painful at the time does not mean that you have to relive that pain now. Okay. It may be uncomfortable. It may it may produce some discomfort because you don't want to see it. I don't want to see that. I want to go away from that. And it's like, I'm done looking at it. I'm done looking at it. Well, here's the thing. Maybe you've looked at it a lot, but did you grow from it yet? See, this is the thing. This is the difference maker. Is we say to ourselves, I've been in therapy for years and I've been talking about this situation for years. That's great. All you've managed to do is consistently relive that painful experience. Congratulations. You've martyred yourself, basically. Congratulations. That's not growth. That's almost self-deprecation. And if your therapist is having you do that, then they're part of the problem too. But no, this should be uncomfortable. It should be uncomfortable to look at past painful experiences and say, wow, reality check, this did happen to me. Okay. We can look at it objectively, say, this did happen. Okay. Now that I'm removed from it, now that I'm safe, I'm secure, I'm not in danger anymore, I do not have to feel the pain. But now I can look at it from this objective point of view and see what it is that I was supposed to learn there, or take what I need to take and then leave behind what is not needed or not helpful for my journey ahead. And we have the ability to do that now. But what happens in this growth journey is people go into it and they experience this, right? And a moment or experience or a season or a situation comes up that was a heightened experience. And when I say heightened, I mean the emotional state was at an all-time high, and it became a trauma. It became a trauma because the requirements of us in order to handle that in a healthy way, we didn't have the resources to be able to handle it, and thus it becomes a trauma. And by the way, traumas can happen very easily. Oh my gosh, traumas can happen very easily if you are ever in a heightened state and somebody does or says or whatever, does or says something that maybe touches a nerve on you. And because you were already in a heightened emotional state, you take this in a way. Oh my gosh. You take this in a way that you don't have you think it feels bigger than it really is. And thus your brain tells you, I don't have the resources to handle this. I cannot handle this. Okay. Instantly becomes a trauma. Okay. Now here's the deal. When we're growing, when we're in this growth journey and we feel the onset, this does not feel comfortable. This feels edgy. I don't like it. It's not easy. Okay. This is where we have two options. We can turn, we can stop, and we can retreat away from the experience, or we can put our head down and go face first into it. Now, here's what happens, right? Here is where the magic really, really happens. And this is where I would encourage and pray that we can all get to, because growth and discomfort should always be associated. Because let me tell you, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. And it doesn't have to be painful, right? Like, think about even just growth in nature. Think about a fish in a fish tank. Right? It's like the growing happens, and there is a space in time for however long it needs to be, where this fish is uncomfortable because he's big enough he's big enough in this current tank, excuse me. He's big enough in this current tank for it to be restrictive. Okay. But he's not small enough to be able to move around. So that's uncomfortable. That is uncomfortable. And hopefully he's able to, like Dr. Seuss, jump into the next tank. And this is the point though. But that jumping process, if this fish is truly going to be able to continue to grow, he's got to jump to the next bigger tank. And that jumping is really the scariest part, right? Because it's so uncertain. What if I don't make it? What if oh my gosh, in my process of jumping, in the fish's perspective, there's no oxygen. I can't breathe in this air. There's a lot of risks to be taken for him to jump. Or he can simply stay in that tank and he plateaus. These are our options as well. So in the process of growth, in the presence of discomfort, be encouraged. This is an encouraging thought. It is an encouraging process. And how it's okay to, well, it's one thing to cognitively know that this is a good thing, right? Oh, I'm feeling discomfort. This is my sign that I'm growing. This is great news. This is helpful to me, and it's good information for me to know. But I want to take that a step further and help you to actually enjoy it. And I would go so far as to say the expression and feeling of your emotions fully is what is going to allow you to enjoy this process, even if there is discomfort. Okay. So here's what happens. We pursue growth. We feel this discomfort. We can interpret it as pain and run away, or we can recognize it for what it is and know that it is growing pains. Okay. Right. It's growing pains. Think about when you were a little kid, you had growing pains in your legs. Okay. These are growing pains. You can put your head down. You can go face first, head first into this. And inevitably, you know that the only way to the other side is through it. You cannot go around it. You cannot go under it. You must go through it. And so what we must come to a place of is to allow ourselves to feel fully the emotions that are making themselves present at any given time. Now, this growth journey is not linear. So you will constantly have work to do. And I say that in quotations, work to do, because I don't like to call it work. It's literally just life. Okay. We should be growth equals life. Life equals growth. We shouldn't be like, oh, congratulations, give me a pat on the back for doing the work. It's like, this is life. There's always going to be something to focus on, something that's calling your attention, something that needs you to be with it. And I say with, not work on it, because you should be always want to be just working with everything, right? Everything. We just want to be working with it. And this allows us to really enjoy the process for what it is, rather than seeing it as something that we have to do. And if we have to do it all the time, it's like this will quickly, I could put a timestamp on this, on how quickly it will burn you out. So this is all about perspective, guys. Like this growth journey, it's the actions can look the same, but the perspectives can be so different, and you experience something completely different. And I mean, completely different. You can experience suffering in the growth journey, or you can experience bliss. The choice is truly yours. And really, it comes down to the choice of perspective. It's like, this is life. This is who I am. It's whatever needs to be, what is the work that needs to be done with me right now. And let me just be present with that. Okay. And I don't have to worry about the rest of the things. But if something is coming up in your growth journey that is leading you into discomfort, because it requires you to look back on a painful experience in order to better understand it and do some healing around it, right? Because what happens is a painful experience happens, and what do? Our ego does a very good job of rising up, protecting us, putting some protective mechanisms around it, and then we move forward and as far away from it as we possibly can. But we never stop long enough. I shouldn't say never. We rarely stop long enough to then look back, do a little inventory of what had happened, what happened in us because of that. And then how can I let that down now, right? Like, let me understand this experience from a perspective of, yes, I did what I needed to do at the time, but that's no longer needed now. So I can be with myself for the parts that were hurt, okay, that really experienced the pain. I can be with those parts and then I can say, but now I no longer need those parts. So I'm going to move forward from a place that has healed those parts, even though I still had the experience, right? I can't get rid of the experience. I can simply heal enough from it in order to move forward in a more healed state, in a more healed state. Notice how I didn't say in a healed state, because like I said, there's going to be always something that comes up. And so the invitation comes in this growth journey, in the discomfort, is to say, I recognize I am present with what is coming up, with what is making itself known and through me and around me. And what you want to do is allow those feelings to be experienced and felt at a deep, deep level, right? Like I said, we don't have to experience the actual pain of it, but we can allow ourselves to be uncomfortable in it for a little bit, as sadness needed to be felt. And we can cry, and we can really cry, right? Or if anger needed to be felt and never got the opportunity because of us. Okay, let me make that very clear. Anger, and maybe at the time of the trauma or the pain, it didn't have the opportunity to be felt either. But now, in the aftermath, right, in the aftershock, the opportunity is there. The environment is set for that anger to be felt, but it never got a chance to because we didn't allow ourselves to. Now is your chance to really do that. And here's where the magic really happens. This is the portion of this process when magic really happens. And when I say magic, I mean, I literally kind of mean magic. Like there's a physiological response in the body whenever emotions are allowed to be felt and expressed and come through us, right? Because they're stored in the body. Emotions become stored in the body and they produce dysfunction, dis-ease. We have literal energetic epicenters that will store this energy, and it will start to kind of invade the space of our body and our mind and our spirit, because it's all one, right? It will invade the space and it will cause dysfunction, disconnection, and dis-ease. And this will dull our system. It will not only dull our physical system, but it will dull our mind and our emotions as well. Go figure, because it's all one. And so the magic really happens when we allow ourselves to fully feel the emotional responses to whatever it is we are called to revisit. Maybe it's a past experience. Maybe it's nothing to do with the past experience at all. Maybe it has to do with a current experience, a current situation, person, place, thing, whatever that may be. But when we suppress these emotions, they do cause pain. And I mean both emotional and physical pain. Like I said, emotions get stored in the body and they cause pain. They literally cause pain, dis-ease, dysfunction, and illness and pain. And so in the onset of these experiences, no matter where they're coming from or no matter what they're calling forth, if we can allow ourselves to go into the discomfort of the feeling at the time of the feeling, not push it away, not say later. I mean, unless you're in a meeting and you just think of something and you break down and cry. Like this is, let's be conscientious here, folks. We're adults here. But rather we allow ourselves to visit this moment, even if it's uncomfortable to think about or to revisit or to feel, and say, it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to feel whatever it is the feeling is calling forth in you. And when I allow myself to feel this, here is what happens. In the midst of that, right? How often have you had a cry and it felt so good to cry, to the point where now this creates almost a euphoric state of being, because we're experiencing the emotion at the appropriate time, right? This is the gift of emotions. This is the gift of the human experience. It's like If we can be so present, this is spirituality right here. This is a spiritual process. If we can be so present as to allow ourselves to experience the effect of an emotion at the time that it is occurring, at the proper and appropriate time, and we express it, we allow it to come through the body, either through a cry or through a scream or through some other release or outlet. You pick it. As long as it is not harming someone else, this creates a euphoric state in you that leads to a feeling of, which is where the term has been coined, it hurts so good, right? It hurts so good. And this is not to be confused with pain, right? Again, this is uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable to feel these feelings. It's uncomfortable to be sad. I don't like it. It's not my favorite thing in the world. It's not like I'd be like, I really just want to be sad today and cry the whole day. I mean, nobody ever says that. It's not the the choice emotion, right? But it is there. It is there. That's reality. That's reality. And when we can accept reality for what it is, this is growth, folks. This is growth. If I'm in a relationship or if I'm dealing with clients and it's bringing up something in me that's causing me to respond in a way where it's an emotional response that I'm like, whoa, where is that coming from? This is my invitation to turn towards it. Okay, that's step number one. Turn towards it. Turn towards whatever the feeling is coming up. And this is not the uncomfortable part yet. Here's where the uncomfortable part comes. Okay, I felt this thing from a situation with my partner, or this situation with my clients, or my work, or so-and-so in the grocery store. Okay, something came up in me, which was a response I didn't really much care for, or it knocked me out of my state of peace. And now I turn towards it and I say, where did that come from? Okay, I start asking questions. Where did that come from? Where did this derive from? What's really going on here? Okay, this points us to something, probably, most likely, 99.9% of the time, this points to something from our past. And we say, oh, yes, because my mom always used to do that to me. Or my mom, she would do that and it set a trigger in me. It set a feeling of void in me. And now when so-and-so did that, it reminded me of that. And I responded in a way that is disproportional to what really happened had I not have had that experience when I was a child with my mom, right? Is this making sense? I hope this is making sense to you guys. So you respond in this way. That's your signal. You turn towards it. You recognize where it came from. It came from your past experience with your mom. Ooh, aha. Here's where the discomfort comes. Okay. We can go into that experience with mom and we can resolve it, and we can acknowledge this is where this is understanding around it. We can bring some understanding and compassion around the experience. We don't have to revisit, be angry with mom, be sad for ourselves and have a pity party about it. But we can say, yeah, that happened. And it produced this need in me to be seen or to be heard, or this fear that I was, going to be abandoned or something along those lines. And we can say, this produced that feeling in me. Aha. Okay. Here is where our next step comes. Depending upon the circumstance and the situation, when we go head first into that, we may need to cry for ourselves. We may need to, like I said, revisit that past experience. We don't need to go talk to mom about it. We don't need to do any of those things. Okay. Because that would just be digging up old pain. But the discomfort portion comes when we allow ourselves to look at it. Okay. Just look at it. and acknowledge what it was and say, as that young child, I probably felt, I know that I felt this. And I can understand that. And now my healing work to do, my growth work to do, is to become aware of that and then change my responses. Okay. Oh my gosh. Here is where it comes. Here is where the rewiring happens. Once we successfully do step 1 through 3 that I just outlaid to you, once we successfully accomplish that and we are able to, and we can have enough courage to go into it, which is beautiful, by the way, to just go into it, feel it, maybe even write it out, write out your story and see how it feels to you and see how maybe you may even see it differently now. Okay. Right. There's a process that I do in my retreats called story work. It's a beautiful process that helps you to write these stories out. We read them again, slower. We read them again, slower, and with a deep breath. And the bringing the breath in here and the reading it slower is it helps us to reframe and see this story differently now that we're out of it. Okay. So, so the real work comes when we're doing this rewiring process, right? We've successfully done step 1 through 3. And now the invitation comes to say, okay, that happened. I'm aware of it. And I'm also aware of how I may respond when something reminds me of this situation, right? I know myself well enough now that I've brought this awareness into the picture and also some understanding and hopefully some compassion as well. Now, I know myself well enough that when a situation presents itself that reminds me of this experience from the past, I have the potential to do this, lash out, shut down, put my guard up, be catty, whatever it may be, right? There are so many different trauma responses. This is where another level of discomfort comes from. It's like, the red flag gets raised in our minds now that we've brought the awareness into it. We see what is happening, and now we get to choose. Now we get to choose to step outside of the situation and say, what is it about this that is getting me so worked up? I'm getting emotionally hooked right now. What is it about this that is getting me so emotionally worked up? You figure it out. And then you look at your current situation again from a different perspective and say, okay, let me just separate these things. If I could just separate that past experience, and maybe we don't have to even pretend that it never happened, but rather what we do is we say, here is what I needed at that time that I didn't get. Now you have a couple of options here. If this is a relationship thing, you can go to your partner and you can say, hey, so-and-so, I know this isn't you. This is totally me, but I'm going to explain to you, I'm going to communicate with you what happened in me when this happened with us, when you said this or when you did this, or fill in the blank. I'm going to explain to you what happened in me and also why. Now I'm working through this, but here is what I need. Okay. This is like true clarity. Again, like I said, this is not comfortable. This is not comfortable, but this is not pain. Okay. It's not easy. It's hard. It's hard work. It's difficult. It's not comfortable. But in that discomfort, when you pursue it, comes the growth. Okay. And it gets easier every single time. Every time you say yes to the discomfort and you do what you don't want to do, which is have the conversation or feel the feelings or revisit the experience, even not for the mere sake of revisiting it, right? We're not just digging up old wounds, but we're digging up old wounds for a purpose. We're digging up old wounds in order to understand them at a deeper level. Why? Because when we understand them, we understand us. And when we understand us, we grow, but we also know how to make better choices. We know how to make better choices and we know how to communicate better with ourselves and those around us. That is why it's so important to recognize the difference between pain and discomfort. And more than likely, when you're going through the growth process, it's not pain, it's discomfort, right? unless more painful things are happening to you, that's not necessarily the growth process. That's like life. And then that's another thing to grow from, right? So if something does cause you pain in the growth process, it's yet again another invitation to almost, like I love this word alchemy, to alchemize that pain into discomfort. Okay. And let me explain by transitioning into the interpersonal workings of this same concept, the difference between hurt and harm. Oftentimes people say things like, I don't want to hurt them, or, oh, so and so hurt me. And my instant reaction or response or thought is, did they really hurt you, or were you hurt by them, which is just a translation on your behalf. Because if they did hurt you, that would be more like harm. Okay. Because most likely somebody can't hurt me. I choose to be hurt by them. And this comes from my own interpretation of what I wanted to see them do or how I wanted them to act versus how they actually acted. Oh my gosh. Listen to that one more time. This hurt that I experience or that you experience most often comes from your interpretation of what they've done. And it usually happens because what they've done doesn't match how you wanted them to be or what you wanted them to do. Okay. They, and this is life, right? This is the spiritual path. This is being able to separate when someone has actually hurt you, like their intentions were to harm you, to hurt you, versus them just being who they are. And then going back to what we just talked about, it bringing up maybe a previous pain of yours, which that's not their fault. Okay. It happened. It happened. But that's your responsibility. That's my responsibility. And I've got plenty of examples to prove that this is the case, and in my own life, and then how I will continually to put my head down and go through that and dive into it and be like, whoa, 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 recognize, like you got to recognize the difference. So and so didn't hurt you. You were hurt by their actions because they didn't do what you wanted them to do. They did something that maybe reminded you of an old pain, which is most likely the case. Or they just didn't act how you wanted them to act in order for you to get what you wanted. And now they hurt you. This is way different. This is way different than harm. See, harm is when somebody intentionally produces harm on you. This could be abuse. It could be, emotional abuse. It could be manipulation. It could be physical abuse. It could be cheating, adultery, things like this. This is harm. This is harm because it's actually putting you at jeopardy when you had no control over it, or you didn't have wisdom around it, right? And so some of this discomfort in the growth process can be needing to let go of old friendships or relationships in order to move into a life that is better aligned for you. And this better aligned life is always going to, always, and I rarely use the terms always and never, at least I'm working on this. The path that is aligned for you. One of the main factors in that will always be the people that you surround yourself with. So you can't be like, I'm living a life that is aligned and be surrounded by people who you're not aligned with. Like that doesn't make sense because energetically speaking, we become who we surround ourselves with. And they will. And whether you can try to be egotistical and say, oh, I'm stronger than my environment and all these things, but you're not. None of us are. Like, you can overcome them and get away from them, but ultimately the goal is to get out of those environments. You don't just want to be like, I'm going to become, a millionaire and still live in the projects. Like, you move out of the projects eventually. That is the goal, is to remove yourself from that environment in order for you to achieve what you said or what you feel that you need to achieve in life in order to be aligned with your purpose. So here's the deal. I'm going to summarize what I just said by saying this. In order for you to be aligned with your purpose and calling in life is going to require you to surround yourself with the people that are aligned with your purpose and your calling. Doesn't necessarily need to be directly aligned. Like, everybody in your life doesn't have to be involved with and a part of your purpose, but they definitely need to be energetically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually aligned in that way. And this is where the growth process can have an external discomfort, right? We just talked about the internal discomfort of growth with the emotional process and being able to go into our emotions. And now we're going to talk about the external process of moving away from environments, places, and people that relationally no longer are helpful or serve our highest good, and most of the times actually do the opposite, right? They take from it. They are vampires, they're energy vampires, or just maybe we outgrew them, which is no fault to them, right? It's just they're on their path, I'm on mine, and we keep going on our paths. And sometimes the trajectories kind of shift a little bit, where ours shifted over here, in which case, actually, in that case, they may actually feel abandoned by you. Let's say y'all were on the same level for years and years and years. You decided to level up, or I shouldn't even say level up, not like it's higher or lower or better or worse, but you decided to grow, to change. This changes your trajectory a little bit. They didn't change. They stayed the same. You did. And thus, inevitably, step by step, millimeter by millimeter, there is a distance being grown between the two of you. And they're probably thinking to themselves, well, screw this person. Like, who do they think they are? I've not changed a bit, and they changed, and now we're growing apart. And again, this can cause a feeling of abandonment. And so it's okay to recognize that. Now, when we are releasing old requirements or old attachments or old relationships of people, we don't necessarily have to wait for them to hurt us in order for us to release them. Oh my gosh. So this is where it gets tricky. Sometimes we think to ourselves, we're not being fair, we're being ridiculous, they haven't hurt me. And so we hold ourselves back. We prevent ourselves from releasing ourselves from the attachment. And please be very conscious of how I'm phrasing these things. We prevent ourselves from releasing ourselves from the attachment. Okay. This is a self journey. It's nothing to do with them. They just are a part of the process because there's an attachment between you and them. Our goal should be living a life of unattachment, not attachment or detachment, because one is forcefully clinging to, the other one is forcefully pushing away. And the life of non-attachment means I am me. I'm just on my path. You're on your path. And if those paths happen to be in resonance and aligned for a season, then they are. And until then, we ride this wave. And when they start to come out of alignment, then we ride that wave too. And I say, I love you and best of luck. And that can be a really gracious process. But when we are waiting for someone to hurt us and we think that, because there wasn't a hurt or a harm involved, then there's no reason, there's no reason to say goodbye. They have not done anything wrong. And so we hold on to this attachment. What this does, though, however, is it prevents us from moving forward in our own path and making space for those relationships that are aligned for us, right? And this isn't to say this is a black and white experience. You may still be able to come into contact with people who are aligned with you, even while you have attachments to people that no longer serve you. And it takes you a little bit of time, right? Sometimes our conscious mind recognizes things before we're spiritually and emotionally and physically able to execute on those. And that's okay too. But we can say goodbye to people in a gracious way, in a loving way, a very true love type of way, simply because we are growing in a different way or direction than they are. And I hesitate to even use the term outgrew, because that is positioning yourself higher than this person, right? We simply want to phrase it this way: we are growing in a different direction than this person, and this is okay. This doesn't have to be a painful leaving, separation, and breaking of a bond. It doesn't have to be any of that. And you could also say goodbye without harming or hurting them. All detachments or non-attachments or growth within relationships, that can happen from a place of true love. And this healing from a place of true love is, even if, let's hypothetically speaking, in relationships, we can heal in true love. Meaning, if someone does happen to hurt you and it's been made clear to you that you've got to move on from this situation, this relationship, this friendship, it's very clear that they are no longer aligned with your life. How we heal from a place of true love is the fuel of choice. We can we can heal with the fuel of, I'll show you, fire meets fire. And you hurt me. So now this painful process of this, like, I'm in the fire and I'm refining, right? And so we're almost healing in spite of them. But when we heal from a place of true love, we do not need to heal in response to the hurt that they've caused, but rather we can heal because it's simply the right thing to do for yourself in order to have a more completed state of being, peaceful, love, joy, and also humanity. Because when one heals, it heals the collective. And so, which is what we're all here to do, right? And it starts with us. And so this is true healing from a place of love. It's not looking at the person as a villain and having this anger, resentment that is driving our own growth forward. This only hurts you in the long run, and it is not true healing, because true healing says that everyone has been a teacher in your life, and including this experience. And even though they've hurt you and they no longer belong in your life, they've induced something, and they have changed the trajectory of your path, in which is always, if you allow it to, going to pull you closer to your aligned purpose. And so when we can look at all of these experiences as happening for us, not to us, we don't need to heal from a place of hurt. We may have been hurt, but we don't need to heal from that place, right? We need to heal from a place of love, meaning, I want to complete whatever this is inside of me that has been induced by this person, which, okay, goodbye. You're eliminated from my life. And it's okay to say that. But now this is a me project. And I'm going to turn inwards and be with this part of myself and not work on it or at it. Okay. And so in this process, we also can choose not to harm or hurt the other person while we say goodbye. Simply honoring yourself is enough. And justice is not Justice is a tricky thing, right? In the process of getting hurt, because we want them to feel what we felt, or we want justice to be served. But justice is not ours to have. In fact, justice is already being had currently, presently, and will continue to be had at whatever capacity is needed. And potentially, this is partly justice for something negative that you've done to somebody else in your past. Who knows? I'm just playing devil's advocate. But the justice is most likely going to come in the form of emotions, an emotional state of being from that person, right? Nobody feels good. Nobody gets away with anything. I'm just going to put that out there right now. Nobody truly gets away with anything, because the laws of nature are set up in a way that if you act outside of moral character and integrity and love, it will produce a feeling of discomfort, dis-ease, and angst. Okay. So nobody gets away with with anything, because the feelings that come as a result of poor actions, misaligned actions, actions that aren't in love or integrity, the feelings that come as a result of those actions are justice in themselves. Nobody is in a state of peace when they are committing acts against love. You're either for or against love. And when you act in a way that is outside of or against love, guess what you feel? The opposite of love. That's justice. So you don't need to focus on that. The only thing you need to focus on is you, and how you can use this experience to continue to refine yourself and become a more wholesome being. If you could use that experience, and like we said before, go into the discomfort of it, feel it, allow the feelings to be expressed in a way that doesn't harm others, then true healing happens for you. And in that, true growth happens for you. And this is the difference between pain and discomfort. You had the pain. Okay. The pain happened to you, and then you choose the discomfort. That's where the growth happens. The pain happened in the experience. The growth happens from going into the discomfort of it. Oof. Gosh, that's good. Now, it's important to remember too that most of the people that have hurt us probably don't even realize that they hurt us. Okay. Like our parents, most of our painful experiences, our traumas, our preconditioned, our programming comes from our childhood experiences with our parents. And most of the time, these parents are very unaware of the experiences that we've had that we now call pain or trauma. Okay. Let's be very clear. So if we went to our parents and said, "You caused me trauma," they'd be like, "What are you talking about? I thought I was an amazing parent. I did the best I could. And this, that, and the other thing, right? You're crazy. You had a great childhood." Unless there was like real big trauma, in which they will probably know. But here's my point is, no matter the nature or extent or who the pain and trauma comes from, if someone hurts you, whether they even realize it or not, see here, oh my gosh, here is the distinguishing fact of someone who has hurt you. See, whether they consciously recognize it or admit it or not, they will almost pose as an opposition to your healing. Okay. Oh my gosh. So the the way you know that someone has hurt you or harmed you in the past or even in the present is if they pose an opposition to, or in other words, they do not support your healing journey. Okay. You go on this healing journey to heal from narcissistic behavior. And whether they admit that they're a narcissist or not, they oppose your healing, because it's what it's doing is it's exposing in them. Oh my gosh. It's exposing in them what they've done. And even if they consciously think, and they may actually consciously think, I'm not a narcissist, I didn't do that, you're crazy, you're the narcissist, all these things, right? The moment you go on to pursue this path of healing from the narcissistic behaviors, whether you say it's them or not, something gets defensive in them. And all of a sudden it's like, they're not supportive of it, and whether they may directly oppose it, in which case you'd be wise to move your environment away from this person so you can complete your own healing and growth journey, because environment does matter. Or they just will be crickets. They will just really kind of shove it off. It's not important to them. They don't care about it. Don't talk about it. Cool, whatever. And so it's important for us that we go into this growth journey with very strong awareness and maturity and courage, because trying to gain approval from anyone, from anyone, period, is only going to stall your progress. In your growth journey, it is your growth journey and yours alone. And you do not need, nor should you seek approval from anyone. You may want to seek advice, a secondary opinion, an objective point of view to help this, but you do not need approval. And you especially do not need approval from those who may have actually caused harm on you, because you're not going to get it. So you can stop that right now. What matters in this growth journey is how you feel about your process and your progress. And the seeking of approval from anyone is only going to stall you, because most likely it's not going to be enough for you, because you're going to have oh my gosh, because you're going to have an idea of what that support and approval looks like. And more than likely, said person is not going to be able to meet or match that standard of what your blueprint is, because your expectations will almost never be met. Like I said, almost never be met. So let's rephrase that and say your expectations will rarely be met by others, especially when it comes from the need to be seen or have approval or these things, because these really are things that should be derived internally. They should be intrinsic. We should have intrinsic approval, and we should see ourselves, right? These are things that we really need to develop and derive from inside of ourselves. And this is generated through time and experience and practicing, and from the discomfort of rewiring these negative patterns. And so when we're going through this growth journey, rewiring negative or old patterns is really where our work is to be done. Because yes, it's not comfortable, because it's new and it's different than what we've known, but it's the real work to be done. And this is where we begin to develop a sense of self-regulation, a sense of intrinsic motivation, a sense of self-love. And ultimately, this is the growth work. Okay. This is the growth work. And the last discomfort would be to unhook from our attachments to anyone, really, even your spouse. We should not be attached to people. We should have love with and for them and be in connection and relationship with them. But this is different than being attached. Attachments say, if you leave, then I'm incomplete, or I'm hooked by this emotional experience and I can no longer be who I am. That's attachment. Okay, that's codependence in another way of saying that. And that's not to say, okay, I'm going to put my walls up and I'm going to detach myself from people, because this is also a trauma response. Trauma response would say, put your guard up, put your walls up, don't attach to people, get away from me. And in fact, the stupidity of saying I'm detaching myself is basically just a way of saying, I just made that cord tighter, because what you resist persists. So I can say, I'm detaching myself from everyone. But the mere fact that I have to put energy towards that attachment and saying I'm detaching has just made that attachment stronger. Oh my gosh, that's so good. So what we really want to get to is the state of non-attachment. Again, this is saying I'm able to feel love with you and for you, and I'm in relationship with you. And this is a great experience for both of us, right? This is reciprocal. It's a reciprocity. It's beautiful. It's harmony. But it's also saying I am my own person. You're your own person. I'm on my path. You're on your path. And as we go on our paths, it's my prayer, and I will do everything that I can to communicate this growth experience with you and to you, and hope that we stay aligned for as long as possible. But if my path begins to call me in this direction and your path begins to call you in that direction, then I'm okay. I will be okay with that. Will it produce some sadness? Probably. Will it produce some discomfort? Yeah, for sure. For sure. But it doesn't have to wreck you. It doesn't have to swallow you. You don't have to get lost in it. And so the invitation with all of this is we summarize and wrap up this episode, which felt a little bit different for me, but I really enjoyed this talk with you guys. Even though I can't hear you, I can feel you. As we wrap this up, it's this growth journey is an invitation to go into discomfort, to begin to honor what's coming up inside of us, so that we can distinguish when we're being hurt by something, and we can work with that. And again, I'm going to point out my very intentional phraseology with saying I'm going to work with this thing rather than work on it. When you can come into collaboration with whatever is coming up in your life's experiences, this is really where true healing and growth has the potential to bloom and blossom, because you're making yourself a part of the process with whatever that is. And you're not alienating any part of you. Oh my gosh, so beautiful. You're not alienating any part of you. You're working with it. And when you are working with things, whether they're parts of yourself or other people or situations, you're able to flow much more seamlessly and easily. And so this invitation to be okay in the discomfort and be able to distinguish, this is not pain. This is not pain. This is not harmful for me. Okay. Because pain is usually associated with harm. Like, it's like in working out, right? I ask my clients, how does that feel? And they say it hurts. And I'm like, let's define that. Like, does it hurt because there's an injury or you're not doing it right? Or is it just uncomfortable because you're feeling the burn of the exercise? Okay. Because those are two very different things. And that analogy poses true here, because the discomfort, because the muscles are burning and they're working, is a really good thing. That leads to the growth of the muscle. That's the whole purpose, right? But pain, okay, wait. Maybe we need to stop this exercise. If it's pain, it could be a tear. It could be you're doing the exercise, the form is wrong. It could be an old injury rearing its head back up. It could be an injury about to happen. It could be a signal, hey, stop this because you're going to hurt yourself, right? This is the same thing with your mental emotional growth. Pain is a signal to stop, do an assessment, maybe make a course correction. But discomfort is something you go into and you pursue because it leads to the growth. Same thing. So it's very important that we get to know the difference between pain and discomfort, so that we allow it to guide us into areas that really need our attention in order for our greater growth, or out of a situation because it could actually be harmful to our growth. So this whole purpose is the invitation to do that. And then the second invitation is to really become aware of your relationships and what's happening within them. Is the situation with this person or these people or this experience Is it causing you hurt because of your own interpretations and perceptions and the definition you've placed on it, or or is this actual harm? And in which case, again, use this as a guide. If it's you're being hurt by it because of how you're interpreting it and the lens in which you're looking from it, at it from, then this is the invitation to go into that. Go into that in yourself. You don't have to get others involved until you've figured some of it out. Okay. Very important there. If you do realize that it's your hurt to deal with, it's important to begin dealing with that before you bring it to someone else. And then they're like, there's not clarity around it. Right. Now, it's of course going to be important to bring that eventually to whoever it needs to be brought to. But there's a level of self-work that you can do with yourself first before ever bringing it out. And this is the invitation there. But if it's harm, again, this is a signal. This isn't for me. Wrong direction. Course correct. Yep. See the red flags. Got it. Okay. These invitations are here for you all the time because pain is a signal. Discomfort is a signal. And when we can learn to use those things as a guide in this growth journey, in any journey, let's just call it life, because the growth journey is life. Life is growth. When we can learn to use these things as a guide, we have the opportunity to experience bliss. Yeah, I know this sounds crazy. We have the opportunity to experience bliss even in stressful and challenging situations. When we understand the difference between harm and hurt, pain and discomfort, we position ourselves to have the opportunity to experience bliss, even in challenging situations and painful experiences. Because when we can recognize in that moment, this is pain, move away. Okay. Now I just avoided something that could have actually really harmed me and done some damage. Or this is just discomfort. I'm going to go into it. Right. That decision, just the recognition of that decision allows us to let go of a part, and be able to then witness the experience from a different perspective. We get a little bit less inside of it all, and we can come outside of it because we've already said, this is just uncomfortable. This is just discomfort, and I can do this. And now I'm here. I'm with it. Let's do this. Let's focus on it. And let's make this enjoyable. Let's feel the feelings. Let's get some euphoria here. I pray this episode helped. Growth is like what we're all here to do, right? So I pray that this episode helped. And if it brought you value, again, please share this episode. I could go on and on about this topic, but I feel as though I've gone on enough. So bless you guys. I love you guys so much. Please rate and share this episode. Again, please check out the website for those online growth resources. There's also a 15 guided meditation package on the website as well for you to check out. Please rate and share. And if you're interested in October 19th retreat, please email me or message me on any social media channel. I love you all. And until next time, I will talk to you very, very soon.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Ignite the Spark Within. If this podcast brought you value, or you think it would bring someone else value, please hit that share button. My mission is to reach and help as many people as I possibly can, and you just never know who could use that one good piece of information. And hey, if you have any topics, discussion questions, or ideas for future episodes, you can reach me directly at sarah@sparkflc.com and just write podcast in the subject line. And if you haven't already, please rate the podcast on your favorite podcast channel. This helps bring awareness to the show. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications so you're alerted for all future episodes. Please go ahead and follow me on Facebook and Instagram. And if you're interested in pursuing coaching for yourself, you can visit sparkflc.com for more information.